That's a pretty wild statement, to be honest. The British invented that too, apparently. This is just insane. I mean, I don't even know what to say about it, to be honest. I am honestly completely shocked right now. What? What is up? Welcome back. Today we're watching a video titled, What Did the British Ever Do for Us? I think this is from an American perspective. I'm very interested in what he's going to say here. What's up? My name's Aaron. I'm an American discovering Europe one country at a time. The people, the culture, the sports, the history, the music. And I think in this video we're going to get a little bit of history. I literally just want to know everything about Europe. I'm just trying to dive deeper. I really appreciate each country in Europe and I want to go to all of them. So yeah, that's what this channel is about. I post videos every single day, so make sure you hit like and subscribe, and you're going to see me again in the future. But now let's get into what the British ever did for us, as in the US, I believe.
British ever do for us? Science. Nowadays, our education system regards the British as brutal colonists who enslaved populations, subjugated the world. Out of roughly 200 countries in the world today, the Brits colonised, settled or invaded about 90% of them.
What?
Which I think is fairly impressive, or at least I think the Romans would think it was impressive. But would we have been better off without those bastard Brits? Now, as it happens, they may have some redeeming features. If you look at their scientific contribution at least. Now, this is a slightly different video to normal, and I'm going to...
Okay, first off, I think he's Australian. So I think he's just talking about in general. What did Britain do for the world? So I think that's what we're going to get into. Maybe he said science here, so maybe from a scientific perspective, which would be pretty nice.
To talk about the British scientific and technological achievements and inventions, even though I could mention trivial things like the British invention of some of the best countries in the world, like Australia, Canada, Singapore, New Zealand, America. Well, maybe not invented, but they were certainly highly influenced.
Invented.
Or even the only decent country in the Middle East, which is Israel, courtesy of Mr. Balfour, and many other countries that have a great deal to be proud of, such as Malaya, South Africa, Fiji, Kenya, Botswana, Sri Lanka, India, all wonderful British creations. But we're a science channel, and we're going to look at science.
That's insane. I've never heard someone say that Britain invented all those countries. That's a pretty wild statement, to be honest. Do you agree with that, or do you think he's kind of bluffing here?
Now, the list is long of scientific achievements, and I'm only going to look at the really big ones and some of the more important ones. Let's start. Let's start with transport and engines. So the British invented the railways. Steel tracks, railway locomotives. In fact, wherever the British went, railways followed. So they put in railways in Germany, India, South America, and of course everybody copied that. Then we have the modern bicycle, initially called the Rover safety bicycle apparently. Chain drive, caster steering and relatively small wheels, invented by the Rover company. In fact, in Poland, the word for bicycle is Rover. And yes, it's the same company that makes Land Rovers. Now the British...
Interesting. Okay, the British invented bicycles. I thought it came from like the Netherlands or something like that. Yeah, I'm kind of shocked by that actually.
The British obviously invented the first engines, which was the steam engine, and that broke us free from back-breaking animal and human-powered devices. Now, while the British were inventing the steam engine, they of course had to invent the piston. And more importantly, the piston ring that seals the piston, a truly remarkable technological invention, which is even now being developed further. And the piston ring is the basis for petrol engines and diesel engines, in fact, virtually every engine. So no Brits, no engines.
That's really, what a statement. No Brits, no engines. This is really what it's all about. Wow. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. I mean, I know the first car came out of America, but obviously without pistons, it wouldn't have been possible. Also, the first steam engine connecting to the train. This is really interesting. I mean, basically they invented modern, I guess, outside of directly inventing the car, they basically invented modern transportation. So that's really remarkable.
Next, they invented the first engine-powered ships, obviously steam-powered. Ships' propellers, steel ships, the steam turbine, initially for powering ships, but now it powers the generators in every coal electricity generating plant and every nuclear generating plant. So that's about 50% of all the electricity that's generated today, all courtesy of Mr. Parsons. Then we have the jet engine. Yes, the Germans independently invented it in the Second World War. The turboprop engine, invented by the Brits, the first turboprop aircraft. So if you don't fly in an airplane powered by a jet engine, which was largely due to the Brits, it's a turboprop airplane, which was invented by the Brits. And of course, the turboprop is the basis of the gas turbine, which is used to generate another 20% of the world's electricity. We also have the modern car layout: front drive, transverse engine, independent suspension, CV joints on the front wheels. Before that, companies tried all sorts of arrangements. So, for example, the Germans famously had the engine and everything at the back, but since 1959, most cars use the mini minor equivalent. Ever been on a vehicle that uses steel wheels? Pretty uncomfortable. But don't worry, the Brits invented the pneumatic tyre.
What?
So it looks like the British have invented pretty much everything that runs on the road. They didn't invent the road, that's just about it. Well, actually, they did. Tarmac roads, or...
This guy just left us on the most insane cliffhanger ever, and then he told us that they actually did invent the roads, okay? What's he going to say here?
That's just about it. Well, actually, they did. Tarmac roads, or tarmacadam, was invented by a Scot and a Welshman. Then we have steel bridges. And here's a very interesting one. The modern traffic roundabout in the 1960s. Now, you might think that roundabouts have been around since way before the 1960s, but the Brits had the inspired idea of changing the rules for the roundabout. In other words, yield to enter, which massively increases the efficiency of the roundabout.
Okay, I actually did a video on the roundabouts and like the history behind those. Insanely fascinating. There's the British roundabout, there's the Netherlands roundabout, there's different roundabouts across the world. America is now bringing the roundabout back to America because it was incorrectly developed in the beginning. I mean, it was also a fascinating video about something that I knew nothing about, and it was literally just about roundabouts. But the British invented that too, apparently.
Then we have the cat's eye reflector. Caterpillar tracks, which the Brits invented just before they invented the tank. So there's much more we could talk about in terms of transport technology, but we must move on to other industrial and technological stuff. Now, of course, Britain famously started the Industrial Revolution in the 18th and 19th century, and it's debated why it started in the United Kingdom, but clearly there was something special going on that made that spark. And of course, it started in the textile and agricultural industry. In the textiles, they invented the flying shuttle, powered looms, the spinning mill for making threads. In fact, if you didn't have the Brits, you don't have the very fine modern clothing which we have now, which is also incredibly cheap compared with what it used to be. In the agricultural industries, there are all sorts of mechanical devices like the mechanical seed drill, the haymaking threshing machine, but also really important things like phosphate fertilizer production, selective breeding. But that's just the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. If you're going to have an Industrial Revolution, you need a big build buildings. And so the British gave us Portland cement, a revolutionary type of cement.
What? The modern cement? This is just insane. I mean, everything industrial and transportation and all these building materials. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty fascinating.
And where would we be without it? Then we have things like steel boring machines, which led to the modern lathe, which is ubiquitous in metal cutting. Hyper-accurate machines for measuring things, the micrometer, for instance. You cannot have modern engineering unless you have hyperfine methods for measuring things. We have stainless steel, the production of polyethylene, very famous practice, plastic used in just about everything. The steel hammer for forging steel and making it much stronger. The Bessemer steel process, the first mass production of steel effectively. And then the mass production of glass using the now ubiquitous, virtually tin flotation method. All right, let's go a little bit electrical. So the
This is
first
crazy.
long-distance communication cables were invented by the Brits, the coaxial cable. This was used for underwater cables to link the UK to America and other places. The first intercontinental communication, the birth of the internet in a sense. It was the first time that we could communicate all around the world.
All right, that's just insanely. My mind's blown. I don't even know what to say at this point. I mean, everything he mentions, I want to stop and talk about. But how long ago did they run these cables? I wonder. But I'm so confused. They ran cables from Britain through the sea to America. I mean, that is so far. I can't imagine how many cables that is, or how much cable that is, and underwater too. I mean, I would think the seawater would erode that over time. So the fact that they've, I guess, maintained it, I don't know anything about this. This is something I've never heard of, so I don't even know what to say about it, to be honest.
The telephone. Alexander Graham Bell was a Scotsman.
I knew this
Television,
one,
liquid crystal, cavity magnetron. You've never heard of the cavity? It's in your microwave, but probably more importantly, the first radars to a large extent used the cavity magnetron, which was a revolution. Then if we go a little bit medical, we've got CAT scanners, ultrasound scanners, the first town to have chlorinated water. How about the first electronic programmable computer to crack German codes in the Second World War?
What?
Accurate navigation using highly accurate clocks, the chronometers, and the first workable atomic clock.
All right, I would have thought these clocks come straight out of like Switzerland. I mean, I know Switzerland's known for Rolex and these really high-end watches, so I would imagine that that came from there, but apparently not.
Then we have the World Wide Web, a gas stove,
What?
tin cans, and a really big one. I know you've been wondering where I get to this one. An alarm clock that makes tea. Again, I could have added many, many more things, but let's go on to fundamental science, the stuff that all other science and technology actually depends upon.
So he's basically saying, you know, we just did a little bit right now. We just scratched the surface. There's a lot more important things we're getting to. So if you're through this video right now and you're British or you're not British, what do you think about everything you're hearing? I'm honestly shocked. I am honestly completely shocked right now.
Before we do that, maybe just like and subscribe. How about the discovery of the proton, neutron, and electron? The three building blocks of, well, frankly, just about everything. All discovered by Brits.
Insane.
And the Brits also discovered the opposite of matter, which is antimatter, by Paul Dirac. And more recently, the last particle in the standard physics model of just about everything, the Higgs boson, which was proposed by Peter Biggs. Now let's go a little bit bigger, but not a great deal, by Peter Biggs.
The Higgs boson, often referred to as God's particle, is a fundamental particle in the particle physics, which was theorized by British physicist Peter Higgs and others in the 1960s as a crucial component of the mechanism that gives particles their mass. What? That is so just deep and intense. I don't even know what I just read.
The Biggs. Now let's go a little bit bigger, but not a great deal bigger. The atom. The model of the atom with a hard nucleus with the electrons flying around was essentially discovered by the British. And I'm being a little bit loose there because there is a famous New Zealander involved with this, but frankly in those days Kiwis were basically Brits. What about biology? Well, in my view, the two biggest advances in biology were both discovered by Brits. The first one is Charles Darwin's theory of evolution.
Of course, yeah.
And then you have the discovery of the structure of DNA at Cambridge University. Fundamental molecular biology of which the whole DNA revolution has been based on. And yes, I know Watson was an American and Wilkins was a Kiwi. Anyway.
Insane. DNA and evolution. It's crazy. Like, this is... I'm just going to keep going.
Anyway, of course, the discovery of the structure meant this explosion in growth of the whole DNA industry, effectively, such as DNA fingerprinting, now invented by the Brits. Now let's go back to more basic, very fundamental and possibly more important medicine. We have antiseptics, antibiotics, vaccines, all three invented by Brits. But let's go back to physics now. So we have Newton's laws of motion, Newton's laws of gravity. Where would we be without Sir Isaac Newton? We essentially couldn't predict anything. Back onto the physics, the laws of optics and the way that radio waves travel, light, the laws of electromagnetic propagation in signals and wires, Scotsman James Clerk Maxwell's. You don't have any mobile phones or computers or communication cables without Maxwell. And then we have electromagnetic induction from Michael Faraday's. If you don't understand magnetic induction, there are no electric motors, there's no electric generators. Basically, the whole backbone of the electricity system, you owe it to the Brits. Or in mathematics, and there are a lot here, so I'm going to pick the really big one, which is the invention of calculus. Yes, there was another guy called Leibniz who also invented it at the same time, but essentially Newtonian calculus is at the basis of a huge amount of advanced science of engineering. It's as fundamental as algebra and arithmetic. Now, this list is not complete. There are literally a zillion other things that the Brits have contributed to. Actually, there is just one more. The flushing loo.
This guy's a jokester. I really like how he's going through this. I can't imagine how his mind's exploding as a scientist reading these things off. Britain. I mean, obviously a special place and, heavily colonized most of the world. And maybe that's also how they ended up spreading. I wonder if most of these are created on mainland Britain or not. On the island in Europe or not, because that's something that's interesting. I haven't thought about. Was it British people in other countries or was it in the mainland of Britain? That's interesting.
Now, obviously, much of what those British scientists did was based on other scientists from lots of other countries, and the Brits were just part of this magnificent thing which we call Western civilization. Of course, there were French and there were Germans, and the scientific development and advancement then spread to the United States and now to the Far East. But the contribution of the Brits were utterly fundamental on so many levels. Now, without those advancements, our lives would be short, harsh, and frankly, just bloody horrible. The world's population would still be about 1 billion, which is what it was in about 1800, rather than the roughly 8 billion that it is today without that wonderful science and technology. Now, if you add up all the bad things that the Brits may have done, the Amritsar massacre, the Bengal famine, and all the other bad things that happened, albeit only occasionally considering the attitudes of the times. But even if you add all those up, it's not a drop in the bucket compared with what has been achieved and the lives that have saved. How many lives, how many babies, children were saved by antibiotics and antiseptics, clean water, or the uses of electricity, communications and transport? Famines are effectively a thing of the past because, well, for one reason, we can ship food around from one place to another very, very easily.
Wait, real quick. I don't know much about British history and besides the involvement with America. I don't know really much at all, I guess. And so when he's bringing up these horrific things, I'm thinking to myself, maybe I should do some videos on that. If you have any videos about that stuff, I would love to check out that and just dive a bit deeper into British history, because I actually, now that I'm watching this video, I don't know much about British history. So yeah, that's just exactly why we're doing this channel, right? That's exactly what this channel is about, is discovering and learning about Europe and all of the amazing countries, including Britain. Okay. Interesting.
Now look, it turns out that I was born in England, and even though I'm an Aussie, so I am biased. But I don't think it makes sense to be proud of what your ancestors did or were unless there's some evidence that you carry on those ideas, values and traditions. But even if you don't measure up to those ancestors or other people's ancestors, it's just bad form not to appreciate what those people did for us. The contribution of the Brits was truly incredible, and we should all be grateful that they came along and did more than virtually any other group to pull humanity out of the appalling, difficult lives that existed before the 1800s.
So true. I mean, I can't imagine the world. I mean, I can because a bit of history talks about it. A lot of history talks about it. But I can imagine, you know, as an American living in the modern age, I can't imagine living even 100 years ago. It was a completely different world. So it's so true. There's a lot to be said about how modern technology has changed our lives. And I think, frankly, it just made humans more comfortable in general. Like people 100 years ago just weren't comfortable with everyday life. It's a completely different mindset, completely different way of life in general. The fear, you know, wasn't about what to eat for dinner or how to choose between McDonald's or Burger King. It was more how to stay safe, how to stay warm, and how to fight off disease, which it still happens, obviously, but thankful for the medicines that help us in the modern age. Wow, I'm getting too deep into this, but really, I like the way he approached it and talked about this. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you hit like and subscribe so you can see another one just like this in the future. I'm going to keep exploring this amazing continent. There is so much more to see. If you want a deeper dive into who I am, you can check out my newsletter down below, or you can join the Patreon account. On the Patreon, I'm just giving you behind the scenes of reactions, but also my travels and what I'm doing and learning. So you can get to know me a bit more there and just see, I guess, more content. So check that out down below. And as always, I gotta give a shout out to my channel members. My channel members, you mean the world to me. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey and supporting the channel. It really, really means so much. So thank you again, channel members. I hope all of you have the best day wherever you're watching this and whenever you're watching this. And I hope to see you in the next video. Cheers.